Hi, this is Marty Duran. Everyone realizes we're living in uncertain times and that life is changing faster than many people can process it. In uncertainty, the question people must always ask is, how do I understand and how should I respond? That's one of the main reasons I wrote The Disparate Ones, essays on being in the world but not of the world. The 17 essays in this short volume will both challenge you to think well during these times and, I believe, leave you encouraged about facing these times. Purchase The Disparate Ones now wherever you order books.
On today's edition of Stories from Real Life with Melvin E. Edwards, our guest for this episode is Chelsea Millsaps. In 2023, Chelsea was attacked by her own dog, and the multiple injuries nearly cost her her life. Since then, she has endured reconstructive and plastic surgeries and is here today to share her story of resilience.
I think I'm getting close to the finish line, but it's nothing short of a miracle that I will make a full recovery. I did not require skin grafts. I did not get an infection. My tissue survived, and I survived.
Let's join today's powerful episode with Chelsea Millsaps.
You are listening to Stories from Real Life, a podcast by engaging storytellers for engaged story listeners. Here's your host, author and journalist, Melvin E. Edwards.
Hello again, and welcome to another episode of Stories from Real Life. I'm your host, Melvin E. Edwards. Thanks for joining me for the podcast where personal stories can have a global impact. As you heard in the intro, my guest today is dog attack survivor, Chelsea Millsaps. Hello, Chelsea, and thank you for being here.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
So how are you doing today?
Today, I really have no complaints, other than it's a little hot here in Florida, but it beats shoveling snow. So, again, I take back my complaint.
All right. So you reached out to me via my website a few weeks ago because you wanted to share your story. Was there any particular reason why you wanted to be on this show?
I started listening to your podcast about 9 months ago now. And it was part of the Take Me Out of Loneliness kind of pursuit I went on as I was healing from different surgeries. And grew fond of many of the stories because they highlighted perseverance and triumph after the tragedy. And so it inspired me to keep going, keep on my journey of healing and create a story that made a positive impact versus a negative. This story could go either way, and it's our personal choice what we do with the bad information. And so coming on here after listening to that, it inspired me to get up and find the purpose, the good in the trauma.
Well, I'm really glad you did. I'm glad you're here today and we get to share your story. All right. What do you remember about early August 2023 when you adopted your Great Dane?
Yes. So I'd had him about 3 weeks at that time. And this particular Sunday was like every other easy breezy August day, playing outside, playing in the house. It was time to settle down of an evening, get out computer, look at emails, get ahead of Monday. Some dogs barking in the backfield. He was barking at them, nothing out of the ordinary. And when they went out of sight, I was near the table in the middle of the room, holding my yogurt, the iPad on the table, and he came and launched right at my face. The left side, I fell, busted the chin, and then he got the right side before I could grab my neck and kind of hunker down. And that's when he went into the back of my neck and my scalp and part of my face and then the ears. I I remembered most of it all wrong. And so I tell a very different story today than I did 24 hours after the attack happened. One thing I remember for sure is seeing parts of my hair, ears dangling beside me, and knowing that that was how I was going to die. There was a time that I came to say that. Didn't really see an escape. My efforts to get towards the back door, I know were lost. I have Amelia, who's my older Great Dane. She's 8 now. I do remember begging her to help. Not even, understanding the lineup of the pack. She, of course, was my pack and didn't participate or try. She was beta, he was alpha. Somehow I did make it out of the house. In my mind, it was hold your neck, let go, slide the sliders, 1, 2, 3. The photos tell a different story. But somehow I did make it out. I lost quite a bit of blood, of course. My neighbors then found me and called 911, and there I was at the hospital for, we're inching towards 2 years, so still enduring quite a few surgeries back and forth. I think I'm getting close to the finish line, but it's nothing short of a miracle that I will make a full recovery. I did not require skin grafts. I did not get an infection. My tissue survived, and I survived. When you look at things like that, that is a miracle, and a miracle that we're automatically supposed to be grateful and happy for. And so where my struggle began was being angry about how life was today versus how it was then, and knowing what death felt like and wanting to go back. So I harbored a lot of guilt because everybody around you, oh, you're so lucky, you should be so grateful, you should be so happy. And I wasn't, not for the longest time. So August 20th definitely was the death of who I was. And a new life is being born and being cultivated, made.
So you regularly adopted Great Danes. Why'd you particularly?
Yes.
Why'd you choose that breed? Those are big dogs. Those are like full-size human beings.
Yeah, I've always, so I'm not a small dog kind of person. And when I got my first place years ago, I started Googling great large breed indoor dogs. And Great Dane kept popping up. And so I started researching the breed online, everything I could find, would go visit some. And then it was after Christmas that year, just in a spur of the moment, I found there was one poor little pup left of this litter. And so I drove and adopted Abigail, and she was my first. And I have never been able to go back. She stole my heart on the drive home. I put her in the back seat, all cute, and she was not having it. She was coming to the front seat. She didn't sit on my lap. She sat in the passenger side, just like she was a human. And so she became my best friend, the human. We had great conversations, and yes, she was my intro in, and I've never not been able to have a Great Dane. And so when they get 6, 7, I'm like, okay, it's time to get a backup to ease the blow a little bit. And so with Amelia being 8 now, I thought, okay, it's time for the backup. And when I found him, he was picked up by the local animal control walking the sidewalks in Sarasota, Florida. And this rescue had bailed him out of doggy jail and put him on that farm and placed him up for adoption. The write-up was what you and I would expect of a Great Dane, the gentle giant, goofy, clumsy, silly. Talked to the rescue, went and visited him, and before I knew it, he was in the back of my car. And so it was like, okay, I guess he's mine. I'll take him. And so it was that quick. And came in the house like he knew what he was doing, walked straight through the door, went dead center, the white sofa, and made himself at home. Just as pretty as you please. And then established Alpha, of course. But he was just, in the beginning, what you would expect. Gorgeous, just beautiful stature, fawn black mask, and behaviorisms. His behavior was more aggressive than others I had with my other dog, Amelia, and a little bit rougher play. I attributed that to him being a male. And he ended up biting me one night, and I justified it knowing I should not have. And it was a week later, about 8 days later, that this attack happened.
Wow. So have you ever had any problems handling these big dogs before?
Nope, never. I mean, the worst trouble you have is, on a good day, I'm maybe 100, but we'll just say 100 pounds, and they want to crawl in your lap. And so, there's often issue getting off the sofa, but that was the extent of it. They love to lean. So if you're not ready for the lean, they may knock you down a little bit or stumble. But my Great Danes to date have been like little human children. They follow command very well, go anywhere and everywhere, don't have a problem with leash. So this was definitely nothing that I could have ever expected. I had a son. When he was an infant, I had 2 Great Danes. And, I mean, they would just lick on his face. And when he was a toddler, he was like a wind-up toy. He'd just take a nap wherever. And these Danes would, lay on either side to protect him, the doorway of his room. And sometimes I cringe now thinking, oh my goodness, with this happening to me. And he just rolled all over the Great Danes I had, would ride them. So,
wow.
Like I said, this is just nothing I could have ever imagined happening.
Well, since August 20th of 2023, how many surgeries have you had?
Ooh, 1, 2, 3. Surgeries, minor and major, it would be a total of 14, going on 15 now.
Wow.
And then I've got another oral that I'll have to do. So we'll be around 16, 17 different, with the way that it was read. I did go back and read the provider notes, bedside notes, surgery notes. They sewed up approximately 5 feet worth of skin that they called an incomplete puzzle piece. I did have Penrose drains throughout the head. They ended up shaving, of course, everything. 4 of the 5 blood vessels, main supplies to the scalp, were severed. I did have a blood clot that they had to deal with. And then taking the Penrose drains out with wound care, that was... Well, it started 3 times a week, down to 2, down to 1, down to every other week for 5 months of just different removal of older tissues to regenerate the new ones, infection control. I'm prone to MRSA. I had MRSA in my bones several years ago. And so there was a lot of hands-on preventative care. And then reattaching the muscles, reattaching the skin. Have some in my forehead that were bolted up, and the hardware has fallen. It failed, and so I'll have to go back. That's part of this next one, and get those screws redone. Still carry a lot of edema in my eyes, so it looks like I've either got hay fever, crying, or didn't sleep. So getting, a lot of the leftover things taken care of that are out of sight. If you were to, most people looking at me, talking to me, have no idea anything is wrong with me. And that's a good thing. I can blend and go under the radar. But the reality of it is still a sprint to the end. I hope that the marathon is behind me, and it's more of a sprint now to wrap it up and finish, and not spend my days in a hospital. Tomorrow I go back, as a matter of fact, and the appointment is midday. I wait and do all my work there because I know it's a 5 or 6 hour day. So, I call it, we get a waiting room 1, then 2, then 3, and then we wait on the doctor. And so it's a lot of sit and wait. It's a lot of life lost. And that's hard when you've got your life back and you're still having to take the time out and able to work out and get your weight back, your strength, your endurance, momentum. And then you've got to go back to surgery and you're starting all over. I say every time I climb to the top, I'm jerked back down and starting over. The one thing that helped me pull through the entire attack was my health. I was in the best shape of my life. I worked out daily, biked 30, 40 miles, ate clean, had gained, I think I was close to 115 then. So I still haven't even made it back to original weight. I'm still not there. And, lost in all of this. I think I was in the 80s. It was really bad, just because my body was burning everything it possibly could to stay alive and to heal all that was damaged. So, like I said, I hope that I'm the sprint to the end, and ready to get back, and then some.
All right, so you obviously have had a lot of physical injuries, but what about the psychological and emotional parts? How has that been for you to try to heal from?
That's been the interesting part. I'll speak for me. I never gave trauma that much of a thought. I automatically thought the trauma, the fear, the PTSD was from the attack, and that terror of dogs. And every time I would go there wasn't any kind of calm. It was more of a, try again. Wrong answer. And ended up realizing that my trauma was not my dog, was not my dogs, or any dog. I still very much wanted to be rolling around with the animals and playing and cuddling them. And so why was I traumatized? What was behind everything? And what I realized that it was the people that came after. It was the things that came after that traumatized me. People that suddenly abandon you when you're not of use for them. The people who come just to catch a peek of that girl that used to be pretty. Those who leave disappointed because you're not mangled. And those who try to take advantage of an opportunity, exploit you. Insurance companies determining when you can have surgery, what you can have done. If I wasn't waiting on insurance approvals, I really think I could have been done 6 months ago. It was everything that came after the traumatic event that traumatized me and left me broken and fearful. Because when you walk out into the world and you don't know who to trust anymore, it's a very lonely place to have to navigate when you are alone and wondering what's next.
Were you a pretty social person before all this happened?
Very. Yep. I am not very much an extrovert. So ENFJ-A, very extroverted, but very intuitive, very much an empath. So I do like my free time, but I am fed off the energy of others. And so being social, being a part of different fitness centers, with women's groups, Bible studies, that was something that really fed me personally. I've always been in sales, business development in the pharmaceutical biotech industry. That has yielded a lot of great opportunities, a lot of very fascinating conversations, very much the sapiosexual type that wants to, pick your brain and learn and explore and brainstorm. And I did not have that. For the longest time, my only conversations were with infectious disease docs, wound care docs, plastic surgeons, dentists, and that was it. That was it. Everyone that was close had didn't know what to do. They had, what I learned in all of this was the people that were closest to me have their own trauma from what happened. The people that love us, when something like this happens, there's a part of them that feels guilty, blames themselves. Why wasn't I there? Why didn't I stop this? I could have done something. It's natural. That's what love is. That's what love is. Even though it was not in their capability of stopping, doing, helping, anything, there's still that trauma and that guilt that they feel. And I had to learn how to navigate through that. How to, most often, when they see this, they'll know, fake it. You fake it until you make it. We've all heard that. And I would fake okay because I wanted them to be okay. And that was the only option. If they knew that I was prevailing and healthy as ever, on my way, then there was less worry behind that. And the relationship could be back to its new normal. And that's what I was desperate for. So I buried a lot of the pain to protect others and to have back what I missed so desperately.
The concept, what were the boxes of your life before this happened?
Oh, the boxes. Well, let's see. If we're going to go to the gym, we've got to do the fitness box, and we've got to fit that mold, that look, that mentality. And so we hop into that, look the part, and really channel the mind. With me, I'm an athlete. And so to turn on that mind, to turn on that brain, it was kind of a ritual, if you will, a superstition of getting ready, getting on. So we have that box. And then if we're going out to dinner with friends, well, where are we going? What are we seeing? Who's going to be there? It's fitting into that box, making sure that the conversations are in alignment. Going to church, you've got that box. Being at home, you have the natural box. I don't know many of us that are home alone, dressed like this, and, makeup. Me, I don't wear my wigs. But that was the box of home, of fully relaxed me. Business, going to conferences, doing different calls. There's always that box and that individual we have to be in that moment around those people. And so when I looked at those boxes, yes, they were all me. They all resembled me. But it was a version of me instead of just the authentic, real, broken. I would have never shared anything embarrassing or that I thought somebody may judge. You tailor your tongue accordingly. When I started recovering and when I grew into my new skin, if you will, literally and figuratively, just got tired of being okay. I really and truly just got tired of being okay. And so I just wasn't. I was happy. I was me. I was pleasant. I was never angry or mean. But if somebody asked, yeah, it's a rough day. Here's what, if they ask or provoke, most people don't care. But if they did, then I would explain. And suddenly my story, bits and pieces, started to splash around. And people wanted a little bit more. They'd, after working out, they'd want to go grab lunch, go grab coffee, talk. They wanted more, because here's this girl that presents like everything's okay. And she's saying it's not. So let me hear it. And it's not that I look perfect or they think I'm perfect. It's just finally somebody is telling the truth that they're afraid to tell. And we start to pull off that, I guess, bubble of loneliness that we get trapped in for fear of judgment. And life feels free. For me, I felt a freedom I had not felt in 40 years, because I was afraid of what people might say, might think, how they might judge me. And suddenly I'm telling them these ugly truths, and they want to hear more, not because they want to go and gossip, but because they want to share their stories. And that really is what began to evolve the book of, okay, well, here's some things that I'm just going to completely rule out. Number one, that trauma is not from the tragedy. Number two, people aren't judging me. They're not judging you. They just are afraid. We're fearful of our own truths because we're afraid of what other people might think. And uncovering that, letting it go, allows relationships to form in such a beautiful and real way that the connection is undeniable on every level, from professional, social, relational. Everything is tighter because you actually know who you're talking to finally. And we get to pull off the masks, jump out of the boxes, and heal. And turning away the idea that time heals all wounds. Doesn't heal your wounds. It changes you. And what doesn't kill you, no, doesn't make you stronger, changes you. And that change is what we are in control of. And that change is something that we have to grab a hold of tightly and determine what we're going to do with it. Am I going to change for the good? Am I going to stay the same? Or am I going to go for the bad? And change is beautiful. It's hard. It's that snake coming out of its skin. It's tough to look at. Nobody likes it. But when you're on the other side of it, you look a whole lot better. You look a whole lot better. And people deserve to be better. People deserve to feel better. They deserve to shed the skin of fear of judgment, ridicule. I haven't met a single person that has told me anything that made me like them less. In fact, it's quite the opposite, because they just humanize themselves. And somewhere along the way, we weren't allowed to be human and be real, and emotion was taken out. It was no longer normal, acceptable. And so really putting those pieces back where they belong and being able to feel appropriately and express emotion as it was designed to be expressed. I was writing something last night, as a matter of fact. It was explaining how anger is actually healthy, very healthy. Anger is passion that is desperate to be heard. As far as my interpretation, see, I'm changing everything. Trauma and anger, all of these negative things that we have. No, I was never angry because I was wanting to do anything bad, hurt anybody. Something might have upset me. But the reason I was angry is because I wasn't heard. Somebody missed something along the way. And so that anger was an eruption of, hear me, please, I need this. You're not hitting what I need. And looking at that, sadness. Sadness is the same thing. It's love. It's love. You got love, you got passion. Yeah, they come out funny. They're judged differently. But it's necessary to be human and to know who you are and what you need. I've talked to a lot of people and asked them what they need. Nobody can answer that question immediately. What do you need? Never. And so, I've challenged people. What do you need? It's not the superficial, worldly things. You don't need $1 million in the bank. You might want it. But what do you need? What is going to make you who you want to be? It's been an interesting little case study I've run on some of my friends. I'm still waiting on several answers. And those needs shift and change as we do. But at the core, we have needs and we have emotions, and they deserve to be uncovered. And we deserve to be ourselves.
So what do you think when you look at yourself in the mirror?
Oh, day by day. Sometimes I'll catch a glimpse. I'll walk by and I don't even recognize myself. And that's been the most interesting part of it. It's not that I don't recognize my face. I don't recognize who I am in that moment. Because part of the healing is the back and forth. It's who you are today, who you've been forced to become, and who you were before the attack happened. And occasionally you get stuck between those two people. And when I catch myself back in that mirror of the past, it saddens me, to be honest with you, because I missed out on the truest treasures of life, and that was relationship and time. Time more valuable than anything else. And so I'm rushed with a lot of those memories and just feeling of guilt and time lost, almost like I'm late to the party constantly. And then I'll look at myself some days and I can tell that we're just almost there, almost to that point of understanding what it all meant. It's definitely interesting being caught in the middle of the life you're forced to grieve. That life that girl did die on August 20th. Nothing can ever be the same. And then when you're sitting here I just turned 44, the 16th. And I'm like, okay, so how does a 44-year-old start over? Where do we go from here? What did I pretend to like then that I don't really like now? And so it's a unique dynamic, oftentimes funny.
So from the sound we just heard in the background a couple minutes ago, you still have a Great Dane. So are you...
Oh, Amelia, yes. And
Are you afraid of Great Danes at all? Or any dog at all now?
No. I was, when I got home from the hospital, this pup, she's gentle as gentle can be, walked up and just, leaned on me and cried. She had tears just dripping on the floor. I've never been afraid of her. She had her own trauma afterwards. I had to re-socialize her. She was an abused pup that I rescued. But she also struggled with a lot of the things that happened to me. And still to this day, every once in a while, if I'm sitting on the floor or low enough, she'll walk up behind me and just start licking my head and then lay her little head on my shoulder and whine. She remembers, but she did her job. She didn't join the fight, and that's what pack animals do. And so she definitely proved to be my pack. And I couldn't, I don't have a backup now, so we're just sprinkling fairy dust on her.
All right. So where do you think you go from here?
Day by day. What I have done is find my own purpose in why this all happened. And we really do have to create that. I waited on it to fall from the sky and, land in my lap. And when that didn't happen, I thought, what can I do with this? And so journal entries led to a book. The book led to a vision for a nonprofit. The vision led to different pieces of the puzzle getting put together. And so I was able to build what I didn't have when I needed it most. And what I found is that what I needed, so many others needed, and it's not available anywhere. And it needs to be. So the pain, the anger that was placed down on paper became a tool that I can use to make sure that no one else feels a fraction of the pain and loneliness and confusion that I did. So my next step, where do I go from here, is to make sure that nobody else feels what I felt. That some of the things that come natural are informed. You had left a few things on my, discharge papers. It would have helped me out. But really building a roadmap of recovery, because it is, there's no straight line, and it's everlasting. We're all going to be healing from something for the rest of our lives. And that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. That is the evolution of who we are, what we are destined to be.
All right. As a final question today, do you have any words of advice to leave with the listeners?
Words of advice, yes. When you're at your bottom, don't give up. One day, one moment in one day can and will change your life. If you can make it through this one day, who knows what's going to happen tomorrow? And that has been the case for me every single time. If you'll look, and you don't have to look too hard, you'll find people that are taking the proverbial shovel out of your hands. Early on, I would laugh. I would come home and I'd be like, okay, well, I didn't get to dig my own grave today. They took the shovel out of my hands. And if you'll look, you'll find the little angels here on earth that can breathe a little bit of life back into you when you've lost your breath. And if you think you're alone, you're not. None of us are alone. None of us are so special and so unique that we are the only ones in the world that are having this problem or that problem. My problems were extreme, but there's always somebody that has it worse, and there's always somebody that can hold your hand and help you get through it. It's a matter of counting on who you least expected, and it's those strangers you cross paths with throughout your day. Lady that's checking you out at the drugstore, the grocery store. Simple hello and a simple smile will do you a lot of good. So offer kindness, offer a smile, ask somebody how they're doing, really mean it, because those little gestures will heal you as well.
All right. Our guest today has been Chelsea Millsaps. Chelsea, thank you so much for being here. Your story is really inspiring and uplifting.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. I've appreciated the opportunity, and I look forward to sharing my story with more. I hope that it was able to help at least one person today not feel so alone. So thank you.
Thank you. Please go to my website at podcastreallife.com for more information about my guest and the things we discussed today. That's it for today's episode of Stories from Real Life. Join us again next time for another chance to learn from each other. Until then, don't forget to shine your light wherever you go.
That was Stories from Real Life. Join us again next week for another great storytelling journey. See you next time.